एक कॉलेज में जो स्टूडेंट है, अगर वो वेब डेवलपमेंट कर रहा है तो लाइक क्यों करे वो, लाइक क्या क्या अपॉर्चुनिटीज खुल जाती हैं उसके पास। अच्छा, तो बस एक बेसिक सी बात आप इतनी अगर मुझे आपसे पूछनी हो लाइक कि कितना टाइम लगेगा, लाइक अगर कोई दिन में 2 घंटे देना चाहता है, लाइक हाउ टू गो ऑन विद द फ्रीलांसिंग अपॉर्चुनिटीज, अगर किसी ने कोडिंग सीख ली है, लाइक ही हैज मेड सम पोर्टफोलियोज एंड ऑल। हेलो दोस्तों, तो आज मेरे साथ माधव हैं, ये मेरे दोस्त हैं और दोस्तों कंप्यूटर साइंस ब्रांच में पढ़ते हैं। और दोस्तों, आज के इस वीडियो में हम A to Z डेवलपमेंट के बारे में कवर करने वाले हैं, क्योंकि माधव एक बहुत ही वंडरफुल वेब डेवलपर है एंड इवन आज तो ये वेब 3 में घुस चुके हैं, जहां से इनको पीपीओ भी मिल चुका है। सो लाइक ही इज द परफेक्ट गाय फॉर दिस टू आस्क एवरीथिंग अबाउट डेवलपमेंट। एंड आज हम ये पूरी अपॉर्चुनिटी को एक्सप्लॉइट करने वाले हैं। सो वी विल स्टार्ट विद माधव। लाइक अब आज तक आप पहले ये बताओ कि आप कब स्टार्ट किए थे, और आज तक आपने लाइक वेब 2 में भी प्रोजेक्ट्स बनाए हैं, वेब 3 में भी प्रोजेक्ट्स बनाए हैं। तो आज का वीडियो हम थोड़ा वेब 2 पे फोकस करेंगे, जो जनरल हमारी वेबसाइट्स होती है, क्योंकि जो न्यूबीज हैं उनको थोड़ा वेब 2 में ज्यादा इंटरेस्ट रहता है। तो आप थोड़ा वेब 2 के बारे में बताओ कि आपका क्या एक्सपीरियंस है उसमें।
डेफिनेटली डेफिनेटली ब्रो। सो जब मैं कॉलेज में आया था तो भाई तब भाई मतलब आई एक्चुअली गॉट इनटू कॉलेज नॉट नोइंग एनीथिंग अबाउट जावास्क्रिप्ट, राइट? सो जस्ट सी प्लस प्लस, दैट टू फ्रॉम स्कूल, ठीक है? सो so I started learning JavaScript when I applied for DVM's front end recruitments, and they asked me to build a small button which change colors
ओके।
every time we click on it, right? सो उसमें वो जावास्क्रिप्ट में इम्प्लीमेंट किया था। और भाई मतलब जो फ्लेक्सिबिलिटी मिलता है ना, लाइक टाइप सिस्टम नहीं है, लाइक जो भी कंस्ट्रक्ट सी प्लस प्लस में बहुत रेस्ट्रिक्टिव लगता है वो जावास्क्रिप्ट में नहीं है, ठीक है? सो वो बहुत बहुत मज़ा आया इसमें बेसिकली। So I was like fascinated about JavaScript, and that was my basic start into JavaScript, and that was front end. Okay, so I got into backend, especially Node.js with ACM's backend recruitments in my second semester of first year. So that's where we had to build this one project for in using Node.js or Django, and I chose Node.js because I knew JavaScript by then, and I built that project sufficiently well. But and that's where I got interested more about Node.js, right? Like the way you handle file system, the way you handle requests, responses, and even scaling the architecture to like thousands of requests and all at that time. That is, and like all these optimizations, when you think about it. It gave me a lot of pleasure actually trying to optimize and trying to like think through these problems, right? Yeah, that was basically my foray into WebD, man, in general.
And like you have done freelancing and like worked had some internship experience also, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, I did. So not exactly freelancing on
Yeah.
Fiverr or
Yeah. Yeah.
something. It was just unofficial, right? Like
Yeah.
as in like people would just reach out to me, like build like asking me to build websites and stuff, and I would build it for them. Of course, there was like money involved and stuff because
Yes.
freelance and all.
Yes.
But yeah, I mean, like I used to do them after my first year, right? Like during the vacations I got between the first year and second year. That's when I used to like build websites for basically friends and like contacts and stuff like that, man.
Okay.
And and the best part was I would always try myself. I would always push myself to make it as good as possible, right?
Yeah.
And like just kept pushing through, and I think that's what made me more interested about WebD, right? Like you just keep pushing through until you know to a sufficient level how you'll implement it from start to end.
सो पूरी वेबसाइट बनाई लाइक फ्रंट एंड बैक एंड कंप्लीटली इन्वॉल्व करके, जब आप वेकेशन से बनाई थी?
Yeah. Like there were projects where just the front end was involved. Like,
Yeah.
there was a startup who just wanted an MVP, right? And just a website to be shown for for uh, for an investor meet or so. They
Yes.
didn't need a backend at that time, so I built it for them. And there were other clients and all, which just needed a description. They were building a game, and they needed a website which had a description of what the game was, right?
Okay.
So they just needed a front end, and I built it for them. But for those projects where a backend also needed, I built it for them also.
तो ये जितनी भी बातें हैं ना कि आपको ये सब प्रोजेक्ट्स कैसे मिले, लाइक हाउ यू रीच आउट टू दी स्टार्टअप्स और दी स्टार्टअप्स रीच आउट टू यू,
Yeah,
तो ये अभी हम लेटर सेक्शन में करने ही वाले हैं।
definitely.
बट करंटली हम ये बात करते हैं कि लाइक एक कॉलेज में जो स्टूडेंट है, अगर वो वेब डेवलपमेंट कर रहा है तो लाइक क्यों करे वो, लाइक क्या क्या अपॉर्चुनिटीज खुल जाती हैं उसके पास। प्लेसमेंट्स में आपको क्या लगता है कि कैसे अगर आपके पास वेब डेवलपमेंट है तो कैसे आपको हेल्प करता है, एंड लाइक कॉलेज में इंटर्नशिप अपॉर्चुनिटीज कितनी आसान होती हैं, ये
Right,
सब।
right. Yeah, amazing question, man. most startups in their starting years will require some sort of front end to at least start with, right? Like
True.
building and other options that they do have is building an app or so, a mobile app or a desktop app,
Correct.
or things like that, and those are comparatively more difficult to build compared to a web app, right? So of course, in the startup ecosystem, most of the companies actually would require web developers,
Yes.
and app developers would come once the idea has been validated, once the business has been validated, and they are trying to expand to more users, right?
Yes.
Because mobile users are more than web users,
Yes.
but the start is always web,
Okay.
more often than not. So yeah, this was it.
मतलब वैसे मैं आपसे एग्जैक्टली तो नहीं पूछूंगा, बट आपको क्या लगता है कि लाइक पे स्केल कैसा है अगर कोई डेवलपमेंट में अपना करियर बनाना चाहता है, तो लाइक हाउ इज द पे स्केल, लाइक और भी बहुत सारी चीजें होती हैं, लाइक एक स्टूडेंट अगर कॉलेज में है तो वो एक्सप्लोर कर रहा होता है कि उसको क्या क्या कर सकते हैं, नॉट इन इवन इन कोडिंग फील्ड, लाइक वो डेटा एनालिस्ट बनना चाहता है, वो प्रोडक्ट मैनेजमेंट करना चाहता है, या फिर ऑब्वियसली एक आईटी की फील्ड आती है जिसमें डेवलपमेंट होता है. So how do you compare it like with other coding fields also? If I compare it with everything, like how do you see कि इसका पे स्केल कैसा है, या ये भी I and tell that does it also depends क्या बैक एंड पे हो, फ्रंट एंड पे हो, एंड आप फुल स्टैक हो?
Yeah, it does. It varies. Like the pay scale varies with the not just the stack that you use, right?
Yes.
Front end, back end, or even full stack. It also varies with the client that you're working with, right? If the client is someone who is like basically bootstrapped, so it wouldn't be so much
Yeah.
like on the scale of like usually 5,000 ish to like 10,000 ish or so.
Okay.
But
To
once
begin with,
yes, to begin with, and
and
that
this
too.
is you are telling of a full stack developer, right?
No, not full stack, just
Okay.
front end.
Okay,
Yes.
just front end.
And this is of course like people who are just bootstrapped, like
Yeah.
like friends and family who just want to start out, like
Yeah,
build
yeah.
something for fun or so.
Yeah.
But there are people who want to build companies out of this,
Yeah.
and for them it goes up to like around 20 to 30 ish. And then there are startups which have been fully fledged, fully funded and stuff. And for them, it'll go up to like 75 to even lakhs. And
Okay, okay.
yeah, there are projects I've heard from my friends also who've gone to around like 3 or 5 lakhs also, man. Yeah, so it depends on the client also, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, this is pretty much it.
तो मतलब है अगर आप अच्छे से स्किल डेवलप कर लेते हो तो
Yes.
लाइक देयर इज नो इफ्स एंड बट्स कि मतलब एक लाइक देयर इज एन अपर कैप, so you can like
Yeah, definitely. It depends on the aesthetics also. As in, like, if it's an artistic website, right? Like,
Yeah.
right now there are so many no code tools and all people use, but there are developers in need, and especially for very complicated applications and stuff, right? And depending on the complexity and the aesthetics of the application, um, higher pay is always will always almost always come.
Yes. Many people, like when they start think about development, then sometimes people get like confused that what they should start with, whether web development or app development. Like
Yes.
obviously there's no straightforward answer, but what's your take on this?
On web dev though, you can always start with an index.html file, index.css file, and an index.javascript file, and you can just build a website from that. There's no installation involved.
True.
So I would say web development is much more easier to start with, but compared to app development. But if you were to get into app development, there are more mobile users than
Yeah.
web users, and the pay scale usually is much higher compared to web front end web developers, that is. And again, like app development is kind of like building for the client also, right? So there's a back end also involved. So full stack app development is also a thing compared to full stack web development. Instead of the browser, it's the app itself.
Yeah.
Right? So yeah.
तो ये तो हमने बात कर ली माधव. अब इस पे मूव करते हैं कि अगर किसी को वेब डेव एक्चुअल में सीखना है तो लाइक हाउ शुड ही अप्रोच, लाइक वो क्या स्टेप्स होने चाहिए, क्योंकि बहुत बार क्या होता है हम गलत चीजें स्टार्ट कर देते हैं. हम जैसे हम जेई के टाइम पे इरोडो उठा लेते थे, जबकि हमें बेसिक्स एचसी वर्मा ही करनी होती है, उसी से सिलेक्शंस होते हैं. सो हाउ डू से लाइक कि इतना कर लो, इतना करने से हो जाएगा, मतलब यू विल बिकम अ डेवलपर और एक अच्छे लेवल तक आप पहुंच जाओगे. इसमें आप ये भी बताना कि प्रोजेक्ट्स का कितना इंपॉर्टेंस है, तो इसके बारे में थोड़ा बताओ कि कहाँ से सीखें, एंड लाइक व्हाट हाउ शुड वन अप्रोच. अगर आज आपको कोडिंग स्टार्ट करनी हो, आपको डेवलपमेंट सीखना, तो हाउ विल यू गो अबाउट इट?
Right. So for the absolute beginners, it's always good to start with YouTube, of course. बाकी बहुत सारे tutorials है YouTube पे, free code camp, and then there's edureka,
Okay.
channels like those. Amazing content, by the way. And you can always learn web development from them, right? You don't have to learn so very deep about web development. You can always work on projects, and if you're sufficiently good, right, your peer group will actually come up with doubts and stuff like that, and you'll always get to learn more about these concepts in depth, right? And this is also the better approach, right? Instead of having to learn from 0 to 100, all you have to do is go from 0 to 50, and then according to the environment around you, according to the peer group around you, or the offers that you get, like if some people think that you're good, so you can go from 50 to 75, and then from 75 to 90, then from 90 to 100. Just getting sufficiently in depth into web development is a process, actually. Right. So and also it's about the kind of network also. If you feel like there's like webd is not really for you, or like if webd is something you just are exploring for fun, you can always go from 0 to 50, like the basics of it, and you'll be done. You'll feel very comfortable in it. Yeah.
लाइक अब माधव मुझे आप ये बताइए कि लाइक अगर हमें फ्रंट एंड सीखनी है तो लाइक फ्रंट एंड में भी CSS आती है. अब CSS में भी आप कितनी भी डेप्थ तक जा सकते हैं. हम बहुत बार देखते हैं कि लोग कहते हैं कि CSS को एक लेवल तक करो, उसके बाद छोड़ दो. जावास्क्रिप्ट अगेन लाइक इनफाइनाइटली वास्ट है, आप कितना भी करो, कई बार उससे डर ही जाते हैं कि इतना कुछ है. लाइक उसमें आप अगर कितना भी डेप्थ में जाओगे, एनिमेशन सीखेंगी. So what do you think that is the stopping point कि यहाँ तक आपने कर लिया, that's okay. Like इतना आपने कर लिया, that's okay. Now you can move to backend. Like what is the full stop at that point of time?
Again, just the tutorials, the depth of the tutorials that they go into it.
Okay.
You can always follow them. There's no set point you can stop at it. Or more often than not, what people do is they follow through a tutorial. They learn the basic syntax of JavaScript, how exactly they can connect using HTML and CSS to build an application, build a front end, that is like static website, that is. And in the tutorial they'll get to levels as build. They'll often most tutorials have got have got projects such as build a static website, or like a clone or so.
Yeah, exactly.
That's all you have to get through. Like once you end with the tutorial, you can like stop over there, and that's a basic. And if you want to get any deeper, you can do it. You'll have to just like explore other tutorials. You can always explore other tutorials that explain the depth of concepts, or you can always always just like build your own projects, right? You can just come up with your own thoughts, right? Like one fine day I wanted to build a really I just wanted to build something like a link shortener app, a website, right? Yeah, currently there's like Linktree or stuff like that, right? So I just wanted to learn how exactly link shortening works, right? So the way this works is you have that long link, and then you save it on your database, and then you map it with a very small name. So that,
and every time you refer to that, it goes to the database and fetches the exact.
Exactly. So this was the whole architecture of it, right? So I wanted to build like a link shortener website. So of course you may not be knowing anything about databases or so at this point. But in the pursuit of finishing this project, or even trying to make it as best as possible, right, you'll learn a lot of the concepts, and depending on the time pressure that you put yourself in, you'll learn these concepts much faster also.
अच्छा, तो बस एक बेसिक सी बात आप इतनी अगर मुझे आपसे पूछनी हो, लाइक कि कितना टाइम लगेगा, लाइक अगर कोई दिन में 2 घंटे देना चाहता है, लाइक मतलब एक रफ सा टाइम कि फ्रंट एंड इतने टाइम में आ जाएगा, बैक एंड इतने टाइम में आ जाएगा, सो दैट पीपल कैन हैव देयर लाइक रीजनेबल डेडलाइंस क्या होनी चाहिए कि जिस टाइम के बाद आप कह सकते हो कि फुल स्टैक डेवलपर आप बन सकते हो, जिसमें आपके पास दो तीन माइनर प्रोजेक्ट्स हैं और एक मेजर प्रोजेक्ट भी हो.
Got it. So I would divide this question into two parts, right? For those people who do not know anything about development, about coding in general, okay? Like even like basic variables and all are new to them. And for those people who already know about coding,
like people who have done DSA.
Yes, exactly. So for those people who have done development, who have done coding, DSC and all, for them it's going to be a little more faster, right? There are tutorials which cover backend Node.js basically in 4 hours. There are tutorials that goes for 8 hours and stuff, and those are sufficiently enough for the basics. Coming to the front end, there are even tutorials. You can even Google. You can even find them up on YouTube. In fact, like there are there's a 6-hour tutorial by, I think, Free Code Campus. So not sure on that. And you can get done with the front end. And it's basically a React tutorial, and it covers the basics of React, and like around 6 hours for React, and again around 4 to 8 hours for backend. So I would say around like 15 hours, 15-ish hours tutorial, that is right. Of course you wouldn't be watching them, keep on you wouldn't keep on watching them. Those people who would be who are serious about web development, they'll be pausing that video and then like developing also, right?
Exactly.
So I think we should like estimate around 30 hours or so,
Okay.
and you should be sufficiently good with the concepts, I guess. Yeah.
एंड प्रोजेक्ट्स की कितनी इंपॉर्टेंस है इस लर्निंग में, लाइक वेब डी में कितना ज्यादा प्रोजेक्ट्स इंपॉर्टेंट होते हैं आपको प्रैक्टिस के टाइम पे?
Got it. So again, like not like having a project or two is always a great thing to start with, right?
Yeah.
Especially if you're looking for a career with web development. When you're like going to meet around with people, first question that they'll inevitably ask you is your portfolio.
Yeah, exactly.
Right, and if you do not have a portfolio, then you cannot actually like work for them or something, right? So in fact, building a project or two is always important thing. Yeah, like the first initial step that you'll have to make by yourself, right? And then by working with other people, they get added into your portfolio and then goes around virtual cycle.
And so how would you say, like for some people, like JavaScript seems very vast, like how do you think that, like should we spend time with JavaScript or just like get on with it, like we should think कि आ जाएगा, अपने आप टाइम लगाएंगे, प्रोजेक्ट्स करते जाएंगे तो आ जाएगा? लाइक आपने कैसे किया कि आपने पहले जावास्क्रिप्ट करने लगे, उसी जावास्क्रिप्ट के ही बहुत सारे प्रोजेक्ट्स बनाए, जावास्क्रिप्ट को भी बहुत अच्छे सीखा, या यू वेंट विद द फ्लो एंड बहुत सारे प्रोजेक्ट्स कर लिए, इस वजह से आज आपकी जावास्क्रिप्ट भी अच्छी है?
Good. So I would always recommend to build your base first, right?
Yeah.
Basics जो भी है वो
रॉक्स एलिमेंट्स को मैनिपुलेट करना आ गया,
Yes.
एंड फिल्टर्स आ गए, प्रोमिसेस आ गए, ये सब चलाना आ गया, मतलब ये अब हमें बेसिक आ गया है, ठीक है?
So basics रॉक स्टेबल करना, रॉक सॉलिड करना, उसके बाद you can always get on, right? Right. So I mean, like for those people who want to like go, who want to like just do parkour, right? Who want to like who have just tasted the waters and want to jump right in, I wouldn't recommend that approach, right? Because you would always spend time in the future like figuring out what mistake you've made, right, when you're debugging certain errors. So I would always recommend you to like build the base first before going for the next level.
सो एक ये काफी ज्यादा क्वेश्चन आता है कि हमें कहते हैं कि एक यूनिक प्रोजेक्ट होना चाहिए, लाइक तुम यूट्यूब से क्लोन तो नहीं कर रहे हो, लाइक व्हाट इज अ यूनिक प्रोजेक्ट, लाइक हमें लाइक क्या ही बना सकते हैं, लाइक हाउ डू यू फाइंड अ यूनिक प्रोजेक्ट टू मेक सो दैट इट हेल्प्स रिक्रूटर्स टू लाइक गेट अ फीलिंग दैट एक्चुअली यू नो कोडिंग वेल, लाइक बहुत सारे प्रोजेक्ट्स को ऐसे कह देते हैं कि यार ये तो हर जगह मिल जाता है, तो क्या मतलब नया क्या होता है, व्हाट इज न्यू?
Okay. Path to like find out what exactly is a unique project is, right? Just anything that you feel fun, right? That gives you the feeling of, man, I've done this, I've completed it, and now I'm on cloud 9. Like that's the feeling you must get once you implement this project. So that's the kind of ideas you should always find out, right? You can always like go read books or like go on Quora, so just watch YouTube videos, just find out like any inspiration to like implement something, right? It can be almost anything, like from like I had this idea of like implementing a link shortener app.
Yeah.
And that was not exactly not exactly a complicated project, that too, but I just wanted to build something, right? And then for example, you can always build a happy birthday website for your friends and so, right? And I actually built a happy birthday website for a friend of mine, if I could like show it also. Yeah, I can like show it up later also. Yeah, so those are the kind of things that you actually build, right? And
लाइक जैसे हमारे पास Spotify का हम क्लोन बनाते हैं, तो उसके अंदर अगर हम मतलब ऐसे एक फीचर मतलब माइंड में कुछ भी अगर हमें वाइल्ड फीचर भी आ रहा है, लाइक कि उसके अंदर हम देखते हैं कि जैसे कोई सॉन्ग है, किसी बॉयफ्रेंड को अपनी गर्लफ्रेंड को डेडिकेट करना है, तो हम ये फीचर भी ऐड कर सकते हैं, राइट? कि
Yes.
मैं एक पर्सन को डेडिकेट करना चाहता हूँ और उसके अंदर वो जो लोग हैं वो अपना कम्युनिटी बना सकते हैं, एंड देन दे कैन डेडिकेट टू ईच अदर. So I think that will also be a unique project.
Right, definitely. And in fact, exactly, like like coming specific to birthday presents and all,
Exactly.
like the more better the present, the more maza it's going to be, right?
Correct.
Right. So like when you're trying to make a web front end, a project or so, like that, a birthday project or so, the amount of investment that you put into that project, right?
Yeah.
You learn quite a lot of concepts that way also. And this is also a very fun thing to show to recruiters also, right? When they ask you for like portfolios, so you can always tell them ki I dedicated this to my girlfriend or so,
And even
boyfriend,
this
or
shows
to my friend or
how
so.
passionate you are in coding, right?
Yes, exactly.
Exactly. That's a really nice idea to carry forward. ओके सो ये सब बात हो गई, बस अब आप ये बताओ लाइक हाउ टू गो ऑन विद द फ्रीलांसिंग अपॉर्चुनिटीज। अगर किसी ने कोडिंग सीख ली है, लाइक ही हैज मेड सम पोर्टफोलियोज एंड ऑल, लाइक अभी जैसे आप कह रहे थे लिंक्डइन वगैरह पे पोस्ट करना होता है, तो वो आप एक बार अच्छे से बताओ कि अगर सपोज मैं हूँ, मैंने फ्रंट एंड सीख लिया, मैंने बैक एंड सीख लिया, मैंने कुछ प्रोजेक्ट्स बना लिए, कुछ माइनर प्रोजेक्ट्स हैं, कुछ मेजर प्रोजेक्ट्स हैं, सो नाउ हाउ शुड आई गो ऑन? फर्स्ट ऑफ ऑल फ्रीलांसिंग की बात करते हैं, हाउ शुड आई फाइंड पीपल हु लाइक जिनके लिए मैं काम कर सकता हूँ, हाउ डू यू गो ऑन विद इट?
Cool. So getting into freelancing, there are two ways, right? Like, what I used to do is I used to post content on LinkedIn. Not so much though. Like I used to post once in a while, and I used to like reach out to people who were asking for websites and projects and stuff, right?
Where do they ask?
They would ask me usually on LinkedIn. Like their posts would be on the likes of require a React developer to build a website.
So basically,
and stuff like that.
you used to follow those kind of people, or those companies, or like how did they like even I'm on LinkedIn, but like how do you get those posts which are asking you for work?
I mean, just
You follow certain kind of people or companies who keep on posting job opportunities?
no, not exactly. It's just purely luck. Like you just tend to like follow so many people,
Yeah.
and one of them posts a request, and then you reach out to them,
Okay.
and that's one way.
Like in the comment section, you write your email ID.
Yeah, or like you can reach. Usually they put their contact ID, so like
Okay.
email ID or phone number,
Okay.
and you reach out to them that way also.
Okay.
Right. So, and then another way is to always associate with other freelancers that you already know of, right?
Okay.
You can always contact them. Like more often than not, freelancers would like to provide packaged projects, right? Like for example, I had a UI UX friend of mine who used to build prototypes for like Figma prototypes for clients.
Okay.
And when his scale started to increase, right, he wanted to include front end also, right?
Okay.
Like he would provide a prototype as well as a front end that is implemented according to the prototype. So when people are trying to grow in freelancing, they'd always look for these package kind of where like multiple of these features are clubbed, and that's when you can like they'll be looking out for other people who can work with them, right? So you can always reach out to those people who really want to grow in freelancing, and you can always work with them on projects, and that gives you quite, and that's one of the best ways to get leads on projects, right? So yeah, and you just keep your referral game up, and that comes with good networking.
And how do you build a good network?
Just following people, talking to them on LinkedIn, and if you most of them, and especially for a college like BITS, more often than not, people who refer you are your own friends, your own wingies, your own classmates, your own
yeah
mates, जो भी है.
Makes sense. So thanks Madhav.
Had an amazing conversation.
It was like really a lucky time for me to have you over here, and ये knowledge really I hope कि आप लोगों के लिए भी दोस्तों बहुत ज़्यादा helpful रहेगी. एंड जितने भी उन्होंने टाइमलाइंस बताई है कि इतने टाइम में हो जाता है, उसको थोड़ा सा ज़्यादा कर लेना, एटलीस्ट मैं तो उसको डबल ट्रिपल कर लूँगा, क्योंकि ही इज़ रियली टैलेंटेड ऑब्वियसली बिकॉज ही इज इन बिट्स पिलानी कंप्यूटर साइंस, सो दैट्स रियली कमेंडेबल ऑफ हिम, एंड थैंक्स अ लॉट अगेन.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, obviously it's a pleasure for me. And friends, if you really gain something out of it, then prefer subscribing out this channel.
Yes, please do.
Thank you guys, bye bye.